Diane and the Restless spoilers for Thursday, July 9th reveals Patty Williams, Stacey Hayduke, will exact her revenge on Diane Jenkins, Susan Walters. Also coming up, Jack Abbott, Peter Bergman, will wake up with Tracy Abbott, Beth Maitland, by his side. Plus, Kyle Abbott, Michael Mealer, will alert Burrow, Matt Cohen. And Kane Ashby, Billy Flynn, will offer Holden Novak, Nathan Owens, a job. YNR spoilers tease Kane will tell Lily Winters, Crystal Khalil, he had been looking to buy a specific waterfront property until Victor Newman, Eric Braeden, wiped him out. He'll suggest they develop it and call it Chancellor Way. Lily will say she was looking at the property already and thinks it'd be a good first project for him. Then Holden will come along and Lily and Kane will ask him to join them. He'll talk about he and his mom living in the same hotel. Kane will be surprised he hasn't gotten his own place. Work has been pretty sporadic since Damien passed, Holden will admit. YNR Daily Scoop, Lily tells Kane the job offer is a great idea. Maybe we can remedy that for you, Kane will reply. He'll say he's been made CEO of Chancellor and will offer him a job, as long as Lily approves. I think it's a great idea, she'll say. Holden will accept the offer and they'll shake on it. Then he'll thank them and head out. He'll call Claire Newman, Haley Aaron, and say he has good news. Can you meet me? They'll get together at Society and Claire will say her grandfather asked her to run a division in her father's name. So Holden will tell her Kane offered him a position at Chancellor. I wish I could be happy for you, Claire will reply. I think taking a job with Kane could be a big mistake. And they'll argue about Kane and Victor Newman, Eric Braeden. But despite that, Claire will eventually tell Holden she'll support him. At Billy Abbott's, Jason Thompson, place, Jill Abbott, Lauren Koslow, will tell her son she hates the way things are between them. We're going to work through this because I love you too much not to fix it. But Billy will say all they've done is talk about their problems. Jill will bring up his gambling addiction and Billy will get angry. Talk will turn to Chancellor. You had proven on more than one occasion you could not be trusted, Jill will admit. But she'll want to wipe the slate clean. So, she'll ask him to come to London. At the hospital, Patty will tell Jack he did this to himself. You rejected the dream, Jack, and now you're gonna have to pay. Then the guard will open the door. Excuse me, nurse, how's Mr. Abbott doing? He'll ask, before Patty gets a chance to use the syringe. Jack opens his eyes and sees his sister. She'll put it in her pocket and say it seems like Jack's cheated death, for now anyway. Patty will leave the room, just as Diane and Kyle are coming around the corner. Diane will spot her. Patty, she just came out of your father's room, she'll tell Kyle. She'll chase Patty and Kyle will rush into Jack's room, tell the guard the woman who was just there stabbed his dad. Then he'll call Burrow and race after his mom and Patty. Kyle will tell the cop he's following them now. You have to get here ASAP, I think Patty's going to kill my mother. Meanwhile, Tracy Abbott, Beth Maitland, will arrive at Jack's room and wonder why the guard isn't there. She'll sit by his side and tell him Diane still loves him. We need for you to wake up and tell everyone who did this to you. Tracy will turn around and she'll hear her name. Oh, Jack, you're awake, she'll say, as he opens his eyes. Patty is angry, I told her I don't want her, Jack will reply. Tracy will head out to get a doctor and Jack will remember Patty stabbing him. Tracy will return and tell him Patty accused Diane of attacking both of them and she was arrested. But now that he's awake, everything will be cleared up. Finally, Patty will end up deep in the hospital basement and Diane will catch up with her. She'll pin the villain against a wall and tell Patty no one would blame her if she strangled her. Patty will grab the syringe and stab Diane in the neck. What did you do? She'll ask, holding her neck. Burrow, Kyle, the guard, and another cop will be hot on their trail. Kyle will grab the syringe, pick up Diane as she starts passing out, and rush down the hallway with his mother in his arms, as the cop puts Patty in handcuffs. But will Diane survive? What stands out to me is how quickly certainty turns into chaos. Patty stabs Diane with the syringe, Jack wakes up. The silence inside Genoa City Memorial Hospital felt almost unnatural. Outside, a steady rain tapped against the windows, while inside the intensive care unit every heartbeat seemed to echo through the sterile corridors. Diane Jenkins Abbott sat beside Jack Abbott's hospital bed, exhausted after days of fear and uncertainty. Jack hadn't regained consciousness since Patty Williams' brutal attack, and every hour that passed made Diane wonder if she would ever hear his voice again. She gently squeezed his hand. "Please come back to me, Jack," she whispered. "The family needs you, and I need you." For a brief second, Jack's fingers twitched. Diane gasped. "Jack?" Before she could call a nurse, footsteps echoed outside the room. She assumed it was Kyle or a doctor. Instead, the door slowly creaked open. Standing there was Patty Williams. She wore a stolen nurse's uniform, her hair hidden beneath a surgical cap. Anyone passing by would have mistaken her for hospital staff. But Diane knew immediately. Her blood ran cold. "You." Patty smiled with unsettling calm. "I told you this wasn't over." Diane stood protectively in front of Jack's bed. "Security is looking everywhere for you. They'll never find me until I'm finished." Patty reached into her pocket and slowly produced a syringe filled with a clear liquid. Diane's eyes widened. "What is that?" "The final chapter." Patty stepped closer. "You stole Jack from me. You poisoned his heart against me. Now you'll pay." Diane backed away. "You're sick." "No," Patty whispered. "I'm in love." Before Diane could reach the emergency call button, Patty lunged forward. The syringe plunged into Diane's shoulder. "Ah!" Diane cried out as the needle emptied its contents into her arm. Patty stepped back, watching with eerie satisfaction. "It won't kill you immediately," she said. "I want you awake long enough to understand what you've lost." Diane stumbled, gripping the edge of Jack's bed as dizziness swept over her. Across the hall, Kyle Abbott stepped off the elevator carrying coffee for his mother. He froze. A scream. "Mom!" The cup crashed to the floor. Kyle sprinted toward Jack's room. Inside, Patty turned toward the door. "So, the son arrives." Kyle burst inside just as Patty shoved a medical cart into his path. Equipment scattered everywhere. Monitors toppled. The brief delay was enough. Patty slipped through the connecting hallway and disappeared. Kyle rushed to Diane. "Mom!" She struggled to breathe. "Patty, syringe." Kyle immediately hit the emergency alarm. Doctors and nurses flooded into the room. "What happened?" "She injected my mother with something." Medical staff rushed Diane onto a stretcher while another team checked Jack's monitors. One nurse suddenly stared at the screen. "Doctor." The physician hurried over. "I've got movement." Jack's heart rate was changing. His eyelids fluttered. Everyone froze. Slowly. Painfully. Jack Abbott opened his eyes. His vision was blurry. He barely recognized the room around him. The first thing he saw was Diane being wheeled away. "No." His voice was weak. "Diane." Kyle turned instantly. "Dad?" Jack struggled to speak. "Patty." The doctors immediately leaned closer. "Mr. Abbott, don't move." Jack ignored them. She came back." Meanwhile, Patty calmly walked through another wing of the hospital. She removed the nurse's cap, revealing a wicked smile. Nobody noticed the woman calmly exiting through the emergency doors. Outside, a black sedan waited. The passenger window rolled down. Holden Novak sat behind the wheel. "You look pleased." Patty climbed into the car. "I finished what I started." Holden frowned. You actually used the syringe? Of course. He started the engine. Kane won't like how messy this has become. Patty laughed. Kane only cares about winning. As the car pulled away from the hospital, Holden's phone buzzed. A text message from Kane Ashby. Meet me immediately. I have a permanent job offer for you. Holden stared at the message. A permanent position meant loyalty. It also meant choosing sides in a dangerous war. For the first time, Holden realized that accepting Kane's offer might change his life forever. The emergency room erupted into controlled chaos as doctors surrounded Diane's stretcher. Nurses quickly attached monitors while another physician searched for the puncture wound on her shoulder. What did she inject? One doctor asked. Kyle shook his head helplessly. I don't know. Patty just attacked her. She used a syringe and ran. The doctor nodded grimly. Draw blood immediately. We need to identify the substance before it spreads. Kyle glanced toward the ICU, torn between staying with his mother and checking on Jack. At that moment, Ashley, Tracy, Billy, and Nikki rushed into the hospital after receiving frantic phone calls. Ashley grabbed Kyle's arm. What happened? Patty got inside the hospital, Kyle said, still in shock. She attacked Mom, but Dad woke up. Jack was conscious. The news spread through the family in seconds. Inside Jack's room, doctors continued examining him. Can you tell us your name? Jack Abbott. Do you know where you are? The hospital. His voice was weak, but his mind was becoming clearer. Then his expression changed. Patty. The doctor leaned closer. You remember what happened? Jack closed his eyes, struggling to piece together the terrifying memories. I remember her standing over me. She kept talking about destiny, then I felt something sharp. He suddenly opened his eyes. Diane. Is she safe? No one answered immediately. Jack knew. Patty had found Diane. Meanwhile, Genoa City Police launched a massive search around the hospital. Christine Blair and Chance Chancellor reviewed security footage frame by frame. There, Chance said, pointing at the screen. Patty appeared disguised as a nurse before disappearing through an emergency exit. Christine frowned. She planned every step. Chance nodded. And she probably had help. Several miles away. Patty sat comfortably in Holden's car as they drove toward Kane's private estate. Holden finally broke the silence. You've gone too far. Patty smiled without looking at him. There is no too far when it comes to love. You almost killed Diane. Almost? She laughed softly. I'll finish the job if I have to. Holden tightened his grip on the steering wheel. For the first time, even he felt uneasy being around Patty. At Kane's estate. Kane Ashby stood on the terrace overlooking the grounds. He didn't look surprised when Holden arrived. I assume everything went according to plan. Holden hesitated. Patty attacked Diane. Kane sighed. I expected as much. You knew she'd do it? I knew she couldn't let go. Holden studied Kane carefully. You never intended to stop her. Kane smiled faintly. I simply don't interfere when people reveal their true nature. Then he handed Holden a thick envelope. Inside was a contract. I want you working for me full-time. Holden looked stunned. This isn't temporary? No. What exactly would I be doing? Loyalty, Kane replied. I need people I can trust. Holden stared at the contract. The salary was unbelievable. Power. Security. Influence. Everything he'd wanted. But accepting meant becoming part of Kane's dangerous world. Back at the hospital. A doctor finally emerged from Diane's treatment room. Kyle immediately stood. How is she? The toxin doesn't appear to be immediately fatal. Kyle released a shaky breath. But the doctor's expression remained serious. We still don't know its long-term effects. She'll remain under close observation. Relief mixed with fresh anxiety. Diane was alive, but she wasn't out of danger. Later that evening, Jack insisted on seeing Diane despite the doctor's objections. Weak but determined, he slowly entered her room in a wheelchair. Diane opened her eyes. Jack. He reached for her hand. I'm so sorry. She managed a faint smile. This isn't your fault. It is. If Patty wanted revenge, she was always going to come after us. Jack lowered his head. I should have stopped her years ago. Before Diane could answer, Kyle stepped into the room. The police have new evidence. Jack looked up. What kind of evidence? They think Patty had help escaping. Silence filled the room. Jack's instincts immediately pointed to one name. Kane. Across town. Holden remained alone in Kane's office, staring at the unsigned contract. He thought about Lily's warnings, Billy's suspicions, and Kane's promises. After several long moments, Holden picked up the pen. He signed his name. Kane returned to the office just as Holden set the pen down. A slow smile crossed Kane's face. Welcome to the team. Holden forced a smile in return, but deep down he wondered if he had just made the biggest mistake of his life.